Hey all, here is a replay version of the most recent live stream Q&A on all things Social Security that occurs every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is with all the little silences carved out of it. So I hope it's an easier listen for those who are doing the replay versus being there live. And we'd love to see you live. So feel free to pop in. Bye-bye now. Hey guys, can you let me know if you can hear me? Let's get that out of the way ASAP, since that's always my first question, right? Post it in, guys. Say, can hear you, or yes, before I waste my breath. Where are we at? Where are we at? Ah, Susan and Beth, thank you guys. Okay, so how we doing? Happy Wednesday the 5th. Time is flying. Can you believe it? We're in November already. Anybody vote yesterday in their locals? I did, and I'm wearing the same jacket. It's not really a jacket, it's a flannel, but I wore it yesterday. Anyway, so yeah, what an interesting day. Poor New York, poor Virginia, and poor New Jersey, my old home state. Yeah, they're in a bit of a pickle, huh? Oh, well, you kind of get what you sleep on. Okay. Yeah, I posted the links to the free eval is one of the first ones. And then the second one is anyone who's not a client, not suitable for representation, or we can't take them, or they don't want it and they're not represented otherwise, and they want a prepaid consultation. That's up there too. All right. I see Kevin Johnson's in the house from Morristown, Tennessee. Hi, Kevin. Dolphin, hi, good to see you. I know you didn't pick that name, you said. I think you said that a couple of weeks ago. It's still a nice name, though. I love dolphins. Never really met one, but they seem kind of cool. Susan Martin, good to see you. Yeah, I see that's your first time here. I really appreciate you joining. So feel free to ask your questions. I see you have some. Just going to head on down here. Michelle, good to see you as always. Beth Prince, my hero of the week. Mike, I want to say Pesci, kind of like Joe Pesci, right, Mike? Let's see who else. Darren Magaha. Am I saying that right, Darren? Danny Ray. Hi there, pal. Good to see you. I appreciate it. All right, let's head back up because I think Susan had the first question. I think. Oh, no, it's Dolphin. Let's just hop into it, guys. I have to bring my son to the doctor again today. So after when he gets home from school. So I can still go till 3 if I have to, but then I have to definitely cut out because he has to be there at 3:45. Here we go. So Dolphin says, DDS has asked me to fill out another function report. Is this a normal procedure during the appeal process? It sure is. I would say this started, I'd say wisely, maybe 2 years ago, approximately. And that's when the initials and recons, they recognized after like 2 years that they were exorbitantly long. So if someone did a function report on the beginning of initial, Dolphin, at the end of initial, when they're about to render a determination, they started to recognize that person's condition could be totally different. Their limitations that they described in their original function report could be better, could be worse. I say better because let's say you had a surgery in the meantime, and boy, it really did solve the problem, or 75%. So you were 75% better in that particular medical issue. So it's possible it improved. I'd say more likely it didn't improve. Usually across the board, it seems like, I feel like I'm so close to this camera, guys. It's a new camera. I don't know if you can tell the difference. Usually people worsen. So it's really to your benefit. And I always suggest when you're doing your updated function report, look at your old one. Hopefully you were, clever enough to keep a copy of it and go through and be really thoughtful about it. Like what, and if you haven't gone through our function report playlist where you could pick out the questions that you're like, I think I just need to know a little bit more about this kind of question. What are they getting at? We have that question by question. So you don't have to listen to some big old long-term function report, 2-hour, 4-hour diatribe. So you can kind of pick out your question. I think almost every question on the function report's in there. But going back to it, look at your old one and it might make you realize what has changed. And then you can update yours accordingly to what has changed. Sometimes when I'm helping someone fill theirs out, one of my clients or a consultee, if everything is the same except, let's say you're doing number 5 or number 6, because you can't fit very much in there, right? We'll say same as before, except, and then just put the changes. What's gotten worse? What's been a new limitation or, detail? That way you can fit it all in, like same as my old report, but, and therefore you're kind of incorporating that old information in without having to actually lay it all out again. That's kind of a lawyer trick. I incorporate by reference. We do that in briefs and everything else all the time. I will say also, if you had one on initial and then you go to recon, they didn't used to do this. They will ask for one on recon too. So it's the same idea. If your recon goes a year, they might ask for you for one after that. So I say embrace it and take it as your opportunity to show them what all has gotten worse or what you might have forgotten to mention in the first one. All right. So do it thoughtfully, and you can even prepare it before they ask. No harm, no foul if it's not used. Or you could, if things have gotten worse and they haven't asked, and it's been more than 6 months. Yeah, let's say it's more than 6 months or a year. There's no rule that says you can't submit a new one yourself. And to say this is an updated function report because things have changed. Things have gotten drastically worse. Oh, you guys can't see the birdie's here. You gonna say hi? I'll move. I know some of you guys like to see her. Yeah, so what else about that can I think of? Yeah, and also just separately, if you're going into an ALJ hearing and it's been a while, he only has what you gave to the SSA before. That would be your initial or your recon or both. If you have things have changed, I don't see why you can't submit an updated one then either. And he's going to generally, if you're pro se, and even if you're not, he's probably going to ask you similar questions that are, he's going to cherry pick probably, but there's going to be a lot of the questions, a lot of the hearing prep that you want to do for yourself is looking at your function report and knowing what you said, so that if he asks you, you want to have your updated answer. But if you've already submitted it on paper, that kind of correlates with what you're testifying to too, instead of you testifying to something a year ago that's now vastly different. And then you might, if that's the case, and you didn't do it updated, you would probably want to say, well, Judge, I submitted a function report for the other adjudicator, back in March of 24, and a lot has changed. Like now I can't do this when he's asking about shopping or cooking or, or whatever it is, or I can't do it as much or, that kind of thing. So I think it can be very useful. So I don't think that's a negative that you have to do another one. I think it's very regular now, and I think it's actually a positive. And don't poop on me. Okay, so go ahead and get her done. But compared to your other answers. Hi, Susan from Arizona, and she's a first timer. Like we said, it's good to have you, Susan. Susan says, I'm in stage 3 of my initial application process. Okay, that's like the stage everybody's pretty much at until it's getting wrapped up. That's the stage where all the decisions are made. If it's a sequential evaluation stage 3 we're talking about, that's where they're doing all that medical workup. It's the longest stage. It takes forever. Then you do 4 and 5, but those are super quick. Can she do her past relevant work? If no, well, can she do other work? That's step 5. So 4 is past relevant work. 5 is other work. And part of 3, in addition to getting all your medical records, is seeing if you meet a listing. If you don't, then they develop an RFC. And that is done through medical doctors. So RFC is your residual functional capacity, notwithstanding what the evidence says, given all the evidence in your medical records and arguably your function report and stuff like that, what can she still do? And they try to determine, does that mean disabled under the law if she can still do this but not this? Or does that mean there's jobs that she can do? All right. What are you doing? Being antisocial? Okay. I moved everything for you. Come here. She was a little ornery. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Okay. Susan says, work history form, ? It asks, my eyes are going blind. I wonder if I can make this bigger. Oh, really? It asks workday hours and number of days. I was a teacher on a 9-hour, 4 days a week and worked from home Friday grading papers, entering grades, lesson planning, etc. How do I record this? You could just say it as it is. If you generally did you do 4? I mean, you have to do that grading papers business. Was that considered a day off, but you have to grade papers at night after your 9 to 4, or you do it, you're supposed to do it on your break, your lunch break at school. You know what I mean? Like, what do they say they're paying you for? 36 hours, but you're actually obviously working more like 50, I have teacher friends. I get it. So you could go, you could say the official, and you could put this in the remarks or something, to say 36 hours is the presumed in school work. However, you also have to put in 10 hours extra a week doing XYZ. I mean, you obviously can't do the job if you don't put in those extra hours, right? Because who's going to be able to do all that during their lunch break? And should you be having to do that during your lunch break? So I don't know if that helps your answer, Susan. I hope it does. But you can do those little weird things if you want elsewhere, if that's what you want to do. And thank you, Michelle and Beth, for the I Can Hear You business, and Susan and Dolphin and Mike Pesci. Darren, yeah, hi, Darren. Darren says, do you have any information about changes they are wanting to make to applicants for SSD? There is actually nothing official planned at all at this stage, so that would be no. We've had a lot of discussion on this because there's been a lot of speculation articles, like there always is, like there has been for the last 10 years, just trying to get a rise out of people and maybe get some clicks. So I've done an article someplace. I forget what it is. It wasn't like a super formal, lengthy one, explaining, and I'm going to go into it real briefly here for you. Since early 2000s, there has been discussion, even official proposals made back then to do the thing that people are scared of now. And that is in any way negatively changing how age, and that would be only the 50 and above year olds. This would not make a difference for people under 50. Changing that. So instead of maybe the grids being 50 to 54, 55 and above, it could be 52 to 54, 52 to 56, and then 57 and above for those two beautiful extra grid rules that assist our 50 plus people. So that's been on the table, always on the table as a thing batted around. Officially, they tried to do it in 05, 03, 05, 06 was, and then it was actually an actual proposal. That's one of the steps they make before they ever change a regulation. And the way they consider age in the Social Security, Disability, and SSI claim process is defined by the regulations. The regulations are made by the administration, meaning the agency. The fact that they have to consider age and the fact that age affects our ability to adjust to other work, the fact that they have to consider it is, let's see if I can't. The fact that they have to it is by Congress. They can't get away. They can't ever change it where they don't have to consider it. My wires are really cattywampus here. Why is this so tight? Just getting you in there, Tosh, since you're pleasuring us with your company. The fact that they have to consider age is carved in stone unless Congress decides to change that. So that the age will always be a factor. However, it's how they do it, how they weigh it, how they do this, that, the other thing, which is under the regulations, which is something that is changeable by the agency that is running the show. So she's going away now. I can't win with her. There's been nothing official. Now, last year, an interim change was made to the regulations that has to do with how they evaluate past relevant work, which is what that age thing is largely related to. And that's when they changed. This is called interim, meaning it was before the full caboodle of what they're trying to do took place, because they did this part of it, of a bigger plan. And that was in 2024. So the bigger plan was still ensuing, but the part that they got finalized was the fact that the 15-year past relevant look back period was changed to 5. Best thing next to sliced bread. Never saw such a wonderful change in my entire career here with the SSA workload. And that's over 20 years. So that was shockingly appreciated. Then the next part that they wanted to do, and this is still something that they want to do, and everyone on all sides of any aisle have been screaming for this to be done, is to update the actual occupations that they can compare you to. They had it from like the 80s and 90s. And now we know half the things involve computers and computer skills, right? There's been such a technological shift. So, and they would hold you liable for being able to do something like a microfiche operator. Maybe it was simple. You just roll the thing. You guys remember the microfiche in the libraries and stuff? I remember being quite young, maybe a teenager or a young adult, someone showing me a microfiche. It was how they recorded things like newspaper articles and stuff. It was how they preserved it. It was like when you look at it now, it's so weird. But back then it was like, ooh, microfiche, how modern. Those kind of things don't exist anymore in substantial numbers. Could there be a microfiche machine out there somewhere? Of course. But remember, to compare you to a job, to say you could do it, that job has to exist in substantial numbers in the regional or national economy. All right, regional or national. So even if it's not in your own hometown, it's got to be in substantial numbers somewhere in the United States. So it's getting acrobatic. So that is the thing that they've been trying to do. And everyone has wanted them to do it forever. There could be jobs that are easier because of technology. So let's say a job is now done with a machine and you don't have to be physically doing it and you have physical problems. Could you now do that job because of this machine? Possibly. It really depends. So it can show that some people could do jobs that they couldn't have done under the old setting of the antiquated list, because that job today didn't even exist back then the way it's done now. Or like I said, a lot of jobs that you could have done, but they don't exist, you shouldn't be held accountable for. So it's just making things more accurate. There's going to be pros, there's going to be cons, but everyone's been clamoring for it. Every time I always heard it from the advocacy side, my colleagues and I would be like, oh my God, that VE said that so-and-so could be a surveillance monitor. We know those don't even exist in the same way they did before and blah, 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 blah. Or the microfiche thing, or a lens fitter, or all these other weird things. So, and I'm probably even saying the wrong ones, but they did, over the last year or two, eliminate a very tiny bit of the jobs, saying these are no longer in substantial numbers, so we're not going to use them against you. Okay, great. but there's 12,000 occupations in the dictionary of occupational titles, the dictionary of which is like, hasn't been updated since the 80s or 90s. So that was part 2 of that big push over the last probably 10 years, where it took till 2024 to change the past relevant work period from 15 to 5. And I will say also the changing that time period is reflective of the fact that things from 15 years ago are not done the same way today. The technology of how anything is done, even the processes in almost all of our jobs that exist in substantial numbers, has vastly changed and will continue to, because we're now in this massive role of technology. So they recognize that more than 5 years, you can't really hold the person to being able to, because you could do your job 15 years ago. We know that job probably doesn't exist anymore. And if it does, the whole way it's done is different. So you can't say that they're experienced in that, those duties as they were then, the whole that they are now. So that, along with the occupational based modernization to get it accurate for today, is what this thing is all about. Have I heard I'm going to call it fear-mongering only because there's been nothing official from the White House in any way, or the SSA, saying they're trying to change the age thing. Now, I think they're going to come out with a proposed rule change like they did for the past relevant work to complete the thing, complete the whole push that's been going on for years and years. I think they're going to try to get that done. I've heard they might have a proposal out for December. Will that say we're going to change the age now consideration? I certainly hope not. I've heard nothing to suggest it at all. I've read a lot of the articles. A lot of my clients and just even colleagues have sent me, what do you think of this? And I go do a little bit of research and I'm like, do you realize that they don't have a single witness in there? Not a single witness that has any knowledge of what's going on in the SSA today. Not one. Like they'll say, experts have alluded to. Experts say it may. You know, you got to read the fine print. They word it in a way that they can't be held responsible for putting out speculative stuff out there. And it scares everybody. And boy, it keeps you clicking, doesn't it? That's the goal, for some of them anyway. So I would just say, and I know I'm getting long here, try not to borrow reasons to be fearful before there's actually a reason to be fearful, particularly if you can't do anything about it at the moment. It's not going to serve you well. It's going to distract you. It's probably not going to be good for your health. And that's the last thing most people with SSD or SSI claims need. So we've seen it a gazillion times and everything's turned out to be a nothing burger so far. So again, could it happen? Sure. The administration has the power to change how they're going to deal with the age, which means the 50, changing it to 52. Do they have the power? Yes, they've had the power forever. Will they do it? Haven't heard any credible evidence yet to suggest that. However, sure, it could happen. It's like things were being pushed in the last 20 years for things like that to happen. So, I mean, I was even just working on an article today. It's just a historical kind of piece of when the rule that, well, it's one of the rules that changed the listings for musculoskeletal. If you guys remember that. The listing was changed effective 2021, but it was officially finalized in 2020. And that actually started in 2009. That's how long these things take to happen. Also come to find out that it didn't actually increase the denials. I think the worst at most it did was about a total of maybe like 150 net people may be denied because of that tightening up of the listing level criteria in the entire country, you know, in a whole, I don't know if it was by the year, but that's it. It's not like thousands of people, blah, 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 like all these speculative articles. And you know who I'm talking about, speculated to. So we were trying to do the research, me and some colleagues that do this kind of deep dive in our off time. And I came to find out that there was very little to no net loss. And that's because people don't tend to win on the listing of musculoskeletal anyway. 90-something% win on RFC. And that's why, another reason why I always say, and I know there's videos about this, if you're so hyper-focused on listing, you're probably not building your RFC evidence. And that's where most people win. Most of the winners of SSD or SSI disability win on the RFC, not on a listing. So don't waste your RFC opportunity because you might very well regret it, because listings are designed to be only for the most extreme. So, all right. That was quite a tangent, Darren. All right. I know, Danny, that you're RDM. I know who you are. You can't hear me. And then that's on you, right? Because everybody else can hear me. Oh, you're kidding with me, Danny. Okay. Susan, you're welcome. She says, thank you for all the great videos. We've got AF Vet is in the house. Good morning to you too. This Place is in the house. Hope you're well. I am. Thank you. Mike says, like what an A sound? Pesci. Oh, not Pesci. Now, is Joe Pesci a Pesci or a Pesci? Joe Pesci? I would say Pesci. And I think he's the one from My Cousin. Yeah. One of my favorite funny movies. If you guys have not seen it, you really should. It's hysterical. Some classic actors in there. How about Herman Munster's in there? He's the judge. How about this one? Ute. What's a Ute? Do you remember that? All right. Sorry. I digress again. Hey, Sue. Sue says, hi, Stephanie. Enjoy your lives with the live stream with Jonathan. Yeah, they're always fun. Glad I caught you today. Oh, I'm glad you're here too. Thank you, Suze. 56, back in the house again. Hi, Steve. He says, hi, Stephanie. I mentioned last week that I got approval. Yes, that was awesome. Got my award letter yesterday. Review is 5 to 7 years. So 62 to 64, what are the odds they'll actually do one at that age? You know, it's so far away, Steve, I can't say. I wouldn't be surprised if it is one of those reviews that you don't even, they kind of bypass, or a short form at most. I would expect that unless you start working. If you start working, then they have to ask a little bit more questions, because obviously that's a big change. Beth is in the house. Beth Prince, who's a princess, and I mean that in a positive way. She's my hero of the week. After recon, should we request the SSA file again, regardless of outcome, just for our records? No, because I'm going to get you your file. All right. In fact, as soon as we get that paper, I will download it to the portal, and you have your entire SSA file, the one that we're privy to. All right. Sound good? Yeah. Why go through all that trouble? We can help you. It always drives me nuts when attorneys, after the client is gone, and the client says, I'm trying to get hold of my file. And they're like, oh, ask the SSA. I'm like, what are you telling them to do that for? Just give it to them. You have access. Just go online and get it and download it and give it to them. So I'll definitely get you that back. No problem. Felix, my girlfriend has severe scoliosis but works part-time waitressing. Can she apply for disability? Yes, she sure can. Particularly if the severe scoliosis is severe enough that she could not do that full-time, and any other thing full-time, including like a sedentary type of job. Because waitressing, which I did for years, as well as bartending, is pretty physical. It might be considered light, or it could be considered medium, I suppose. And it's a lot of time on your feet. And I can't imagine it would be, I think the lifting alone has to probably be over 10 pounds at times, particularly when we have side work. We're taking out garbage and doing all that stuff you don't get paid for. Yeah. Tip your servers well, people. 20% is low in my book. I used to say, if I can't tip way higher than that, then I'm not going out to eat. That means I can't afford it. And for years, we didn't go out to eat. That's more of a newer thing. You know, if you're trying to be skimpy, don't be skimpy on your servers. Another digress. Okay. Yeah, if she's under SGA. So in addition to what I said there, Felix, if she's under SGA, if her gross wage on her pay stub is under 1620 per month, and with serving, that's very possible if you're part-time, then yes, she can. I would say if she's working, if by part-time you mean 30 hours a week, that's a little on the high side. So even if she's not earning that much, that might be considered clearly able to do probably 35, which most people consider full-time. So if she's doing more like 15 and less, sometimes people could say 20 or less, like 5 4-hour shifts, you know, maybe not 2 4-hour shifts in the same day. That's an optic thing though. That's not an official rule. So as long as she's earning SGA, yes, she can apply. If she's a hair over SGA, she should look at, does she have impairment related work expenses, things that she has to pay for, including like medications every month that would tip her, if subtracted out of her gross earnings, would it tip her under SGA? That's something you can do to bring yourself below SGA, is subtract out those copays and such. There's other things too, but the copays that you have to do every month for medications or specialist visits, not for like a normal annual visit with your primary, because that's what everyone has to do. That's not really impairment related specifically, but the rest of them. There's a video or two on impairment related work expenses if anybody is interested. Kelly Morgan says, hey, thank you for what you do. Thank you for saying that. And you're really welcome. I'm at Recon, just went to my CE last week. What kind of timeline do you think I can expect a decision? You're at Recon. Historically, CEs are like the last thing before it goes to the SSA knowledgeable medical expert to determine what does all that medical information we now have say that would be her RFC. So that usually only takes a few weeks. However, sometimes people go on vacation, they get extra bogged down because there's an influx of cases assigned to that. So that's not a hard, fast rule, but historically we would see a decision pretty soon. I can't say it's always that way now, though. It's a little sketchy the last few years. This is Charlene. Hi, Charlene Ferguson. Nice to meet you. My beautiful bird's name is Tasha, and I've only had her a short time, couple months. She's 31 years old, and her prior mommy, who's still her mommy, I've never met, but she found her a home because she, I understand, felt like she wasn't being able to take care of her properly. She's an older person in the 80s, had 2 birds, and was going to try to see if she could still withstand, the obligation she has as the mommy to the other bird, which I think is an African gray. And I don't know, Tasha's just super sweet. So, she came from a really caring home and all that good stuff. I think my daughter, who made these arrangements with the fine lady owner, I think she texted her a link to the first live stream Tasha was on. So that the mom would know that she gets a lot of attention. She's always hanging out. She's never like cooped up in a cage, even though she has an amazing condominium. Absolutely amazing. I mean, I would move into it if I could. So other people could take care of the rest of the animals and I could just, all right. Susan says, 4 school days, 7:30 to 4:30, paid for 40. Yeah, you could put in the 40. That's probably what I would do. I would put in is that 9 hours? 9? Yeah, it's hard. Either way, it's going to work for you because they already know what a teacher does. This is not like some weird job that you're doing a weird way or anything. So it's not going to be that big of a deal. You could say, if you're handwriting it, 40-50. Although if you're doing your application online, they don't let you do ranges. If you've only had one job in the relevant period, you have you click down menus and you got to just pick the numbers. So you could go with 50. Yeah, you could go with 50 or whatever it is to add in that Friday. I wouldn't be surprised if I caught you working on a Saturday. You know what I mean? Let's say you had a shorter Friday because you did something and, ended up doing it on Saturday, right? You could still do that, I'm guessing. But either way, you could throw in the 50. Kelly Christ. I just had to remember how to pronounce the last name to make sure, Kelly. I hope you're doing well too. Happy Wednesday to you. Kelly says she had a status update that her application was sent for federal quality review 2.5 weeks ago. Yesterday, I had another update that a rep in my local office started a final non-med review. As you know, the non-med review tells me nothing because people get them win, lose, or draw. Federal quality review is very often positive but I have heard of people that have lost after federal quality review. But historically, we would always see it appeared that the majority of FQR cases were those that the adjudicator wanted to award. Put out an award, it got pulled for audit, FQR. And they're making sure that the adjudicator didn't leave anything out or do something grossly wrong, and it should be a denial. And that's rare. So I feel positive for you, Kelly. I hope, fingers crossed, prayers for you. You're welcome, Susan Martin. Mike Pashy said, Mike Pashy clarifies that it's Pashy, right? With the E on the end, Mike, not Pash, like Porsche has an E. Does Porsche have an E on the end? You sound out the E, right? So is it Pashy? And if you didn't get to the answer, Mike, I want to know if Joe Pesci is really a Joe Pashy. Am I saying it wrong? Which would not be unusual for me. Kelly, Kelly says, what exactly does this mean? Does this mean my medical part was approved? Not necessarily, as I just described before, but I think it's a good sign, typically. Thrill Seeker is back again. Nice to see you. She says, hi, Joy. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself last week. That's okay. Love your videos. You have been a big help with understanding this crazy process. I'm very glad to hear that. Thank you so much for those kind words, Thrill Seeker. Tony P's in the house. He says, hi, Stephanie. Had a question. I know you shouldn't bring up SSD to doctor when applying. That's just my personal opinion. Tony, I'm sorry, guys. It's like this. I don't know if I can change that. It's like, when applying, but what about after you are approved? Should I tell my doctor I'm on disability? And also, do you automatically, let me look for part 2, Tony, get Medicare after 2 years? Okay, so two-part question here. Then this is all opinion, right? Professional opinion based on experience. Is there a reason to tell your doctor at any time or no? Just to clarify that for the people that are wondering, why not tell your doctor when you're applying? And I have a video on this, but I speak it all the time. There's a lot of medical providers who seem to be a little biased against people who are applying. They see one small part of you and they say, yeah, he's got an impairment, but it's not disabling. They don't know about what else is going on. They just don't know. And they don't understand the definitions of what disabled is under the law. They think if you're not in a wheelchair or confined to a bed, you're not disabled. And that is not what SSA law says. Clearly, it's if you can't work full time. So a lot of the doctors just don't get it. And I don't know if some just have a bias, not just being ignorant of the law, but bias against people that even if the law says they should, even if the law says they should, I think he's fine. I got an aching back and I'm still working and rah, 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 a little sour grapes or whatever, or resentment. I don't know. And then there are doctors who are completely kind and not like that at all. Super, super fine attitude people. And some of them actually tell their people, God, you're really messed up. You should consider applying for disability. And that's your sign. That's your sign that your guy may be not one of those biased providers. And this applies not just to doctors. I don't want to pick out doctors. They're probably the least of the culprits. It could be other medical providers, including MAs, medical assistants, office managers, LPNs, RNs, advanced registered nurse practitioners, and PAs. So it's really going to be I think it's a personal character issue of the provider, not their credential per se. Now, when are you going to get the Medicare? He said 2 years. Remember, guys, 24 months of payments having been made to you, constructively or otherwise. So if you prevail and you get one check and it's for 15 months of back pay, and now you're getting the going forwards, that 15, you have to add how much now? 9 months before you're going to hit the 24. Am I doing that right? 24 months of payments. That's when you're going to be eligible for Medicare. All right. So that's 24 months of payments, not 24 months of time. It is time, but some of it may have been retrospective. All right. And because of the 5-month waiting period, it gets a little confusing if you try to pinpoint an exact time it starts. So just always know it's 24 months of payments, however, which way they get to you, whether it's back benefits or forward benefits or combined. Danny says, don't start now at 4.8. Don't start nothing new now that I'm about to turn 55. No. Don't worry. Just don't worry. I should say this too, guys. When a regulation does get proposed, which there has so far been no credible evidence that something like that's going to be proposed, although anything can happen, but that's true every single year up to now at any time. Okay. It doesn't happen overnight. It goes to comments. It's a proposal and they want to hear the public's comments. So you're going to want to tell Nosker and Nader and every political group, every lobby group, including yourself, to write in why that's a bad idea and that it's not reflective of the current state of the population, the health, the technologies, whatever. If anything, I would say people are more disabled at a younger age now than ever before. So we have a very, very unhealthy population. It's just a fact. And no, we're not aging longer, except if we're in a coma in a nursing home and they love to keep us alive because, hey, that's money, right? Do not worry, Danny. It would take 18 months if they even did that or something like that. So you don't have to worry about that. Just don't worry your little head about it. You worry too much. I know everybody does, right? Little Rap Guy. Hi, Little Rap Guy. Former FBI Director Robert Luskin and various courts have had or have collusions with foreign domestic doctors with badges. All right, where are we going here? And with Judes, I think you mean judges, right? Judges' families with criminal enterprise and abusers of kids. Okay, I'll take your word for it. And the elderly. Okay, is there a question? I'm not going to do this until I know there's a question. So we'll just hold off, okay? Because I'm not going to read someone's, no offense, Little Rap Guy. I just don't want to be reading someone's statement. You can do that on your own page. If you have a question though, or something SS related, that's fine. I just don't want to take up everybody's time with unrelated things. Although it's very important what you're saying, assuming it's true. I don't know anything about it. ELC, can I see that right? Oh no, at LC, sorry, oops. LC. After the SSDI award, you get the SSA letter stating that your CDR is 3 years. Well, I just saw one that was 5 to 7, so it really depends. I would like to know, what should I do? Does it mean that I will have CDR every 3 years or just one time? You're going to potentially have repeated CDRs. It depends on your age and mostly your age. It can either be 1 year, 1.5, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. And 3 years is probably, an expectation that you could get better, improve enough to get some sort of job. So what should you do? Well, if it's untrue, if you don't improve, you're going to want to have proof of that. So you're going to want to always follow up with your doctors like you've been doing. If you've been very, very aggressive with treatment and it's not quite as necessary now because now you're more on a maintenance, then you might not be going, if you're going every month to your orthopedist, but there's got to be some sort of steady, reasonable amount because you always want to have in your rear window view medical records that in that CDR, the SSA can see that you have not improved. If you have improved and it's evident, then you want it to be clear that the improvement is not such that it would render you able to work full-time at a job that exists in substantial numbers. Understand? So just keep up what you've been doing for now. And so there's always that evidence that the impairments, and if you have new impairments, go treat for those too, because those can help on a CDR too. If one of your existing ones fails, but you developed a new one that would also render you, in combination with the other ones, then you could survive that CDR that way too. So continuing with your medical treatment is really, really important. Where are we going here? Thrill Seeker says, I am 61 years young. That was my little ad in there. 40 work credits, of course, and have 40 plus years as a chairside dental assistant. Did we talk about you last week? Were you the dental? Yes, I think you were. And Jonathan and I talked about it, right? I actually put out a little clip out video for that. Should be coming out any day. Lost my job almost a year ago without medical care insurance. I have diagnosis and treatment. Okay, you can, but what I would do right now is file for Medicaid, state assistance. You're surviving somehow. So where is that income coming from? How are you surviving? Do you have a spouse who's still working? Blah, blah, blah. Can you buy an Obamacare plan? Can you just start getting some sort of treatment? If you don't have enough, if you have too little income or to afford that or whatever, why are you not applying for Medicaid, state medical assistance? That way you can get to those doctors. General practitioner, they're vital, but they're not always going to be able to tell the story. Depending on what your problems are, I forget. I think we were talking about transferable skills when we were talking about the dental assistant work, right? But if you have orthopedic problems, finger problems, hand problems, you need to just start going to specialists for that, because it's just going to be, still apply. If you're never going to be able to do that, it doesn't hurt to apply. But if you're going to be able to do it now. It'll increase your chances of prevailing. You don't want to have to take your retirement, your Social Security at early retirement age as a retirement benefit. So, and if you are unable to afford insurance right now, then that sounds like you're someone that's going to be taking it at 62, and you're going to have like a 35% permanent discount from the amount you collect for the rest of your life. Couldn't you use that 35% every month? So you want to win this SSD case, even if early retirement is right around the corner, because not taking it costs you a lot of money from your retirement. Do I sound very scary? It's true. So you got to know about it. All right. It's just a fact. A little rap guy. Come on, dude, you're spamming here. All right. You're really hogging it up here. I'm gonna turn these off, little rap guy, because I think it's kind of just rude to other people, Right, little rap guy. If I delete anybody's by accident, I don't want to boot you out of here if you have something, I don't want to see any more. I'm gonna go down the bottom, and if I see more, oh God, I'm going too far. All right, that's it. I'm just gonna have to put you on timeout. I'm sorry. You're just out of control. All right. Sorry, guys. What do you think? Is that mean to me? But he's just, I don't know, using it like a soapbox with nothing to do with Social Security, as far as I could see. All right. Now I got to find my spot. I apologize, guys, but I kept bumping into things and I didn't want to keep reading them. All right. We're close here. All right. LC says, does SSA send CDR to everybody, or is it just luck of the draw? No, everybody goes through CDR. Sometimes they're quick and easy, and sometimes they have to be more in-depth because there's a reason to think that you would have improved. Because remember, there's a lot of disabling conditions where someone is going to be out and not able to work for, say, 2 years. They are entitled to a closed period of disability, and not forever if they're going to improve. That's why we get our treatment. We're hoping to improve, right? CDRs are just to figure out who has improved that may not realize it, because it's very easy to get in our habit of being on it. And a body in motion stays in motion, but a body at rest tends to stay at rest. And we get in the habit of not going out to get a job. It gets a little uncomfortable to the idea of actually going back out to do it. So the CDR is helpful to see which people are which people, because claimants aren't necessarily going to know. You get really wrapped up in your own life, and it's just the perspective that we can have from our own view, because we're living in this, can be a little off track in terms of what's out there. And it's true with jobs changing and technology, sometimes there are jobs a person can do, and then they can happily, go in that direction if they want to. But so everyone gets a continuing disability review, but it could be we're passing on you because we don't see anything that would have improved. And then you're not even going to necessarily see it. Then there could be the short form where they just want to confirm that you're still seeing doctors. Okay, then we know you're probably still disabled, and they don't make you do anything more than that. And then there's a long form and like the whole 9 yards. Was the bird trying to kiss me? Now she's sleeping. She was probably trying to peck at me, Danny. Maybe not. She's not really a pecker. If I give her I give her graham crackers. Suddenly she doesn't like graham crackers. She'll toss it back at you. Or if I'm eating something, she likes people food. And I'm a little, I don't want to give her too much people food, right? So if she sees me eating something and she wants some of that, I mean, it could be anything. It could be chili. And I'm like, you really shouldn't be eating chili. And I give her something else that she would normally like. It's like a kid. She'll toss it. She'll literally toss it with her head. Yeah, I'm talking about you. She's sleeping all cozy. Steve 56 says, my illness was musculoskeletal, but not in the blue book. Had to do RFC. Musculoskeletal is in the blue book. You just didn't meet the very, very tight criteria of when it meets listing. Listing, guys, is when the medical records are so clear that regardless of what you're doing in your personal life, this would not allow you to work full time. So no RFC needed. Think about how high and tight of a criteria that must be to let someone be granted SSD without consideration of whether they're doing trapezics on the side. It's got to be really steep. So I don't really mind them being tight on those. We aggressively go after the whole thing, the whole 9 yards when we represent a case, because we want your RFC to be exactly what we know it is. We want the evidence to show that. People get a little slacky when they're like, well, I don't really have to do all that because I can meet. I can't tell you. Everyone says, well, I know I meet everyone who's been denied. Many say, well, I know I meet a listing. So they're wrong. Yeah, do you know? I didn't know you were a doctor. Okay. Michael Jackson says, my parents' name is Tasha. And yes, she is beautiful. And I really don't know if she's a boy or a girl. I mean, they named her Tasha. That doesn't mean anything, right? I'm not sure what she identifies as. I didn't know. Yes, My Cousin Vinny. Awesome, awesome movie. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants some good laughs. It also is a great example of why eyewitness testimony is one of the worst forms of testimony. One of the most unreliable. I've always said it. I learned that back in my early days of litigation, but it's definitely revealed in this movie. It's so funny. My biological talk is clicking. Do you guys remember that? Marissa Tomei. All right. Sam says, hi, Stephanie from Connecticut. Payday girl. What does that mean? Are you a client that I won't recognize your name on here? Because I do have a Connecticut win this week. It was awesome. It was an OTR. Another OTR. I think I told it to the people on the main page. 2 OTRs in 10 days. It's never happened before in 20 years. Okay. Usually far less frequent. Beth says, thank you for the file answer. Jess was asking in general I would, yes, in general, to get the file after approval for those who may not be represented. I appreciate that. And that's a good thing to bring up. Yes. So love Beth sharing this question, guys, even though she's going to be able to get her file very easily. For those of you that do not have a lawyer, or you don't have one that's going to actually communicate with you or get it to you after the fact, I would write to the field office with the 3288 and ask for a copy of the entire file. If you've gone to ALJ, they probably sent you a CD or emailed it to you, or you could ask them, but I don't know if you can ask them after the decisions come out because it's all gone. I don't even know if they have access. Field office can always get it, and they are required to give it to you. I know some of them are going to try to charge you. Tell them that it's for program purpose because you need to prepare for your, review the medical evidence that gave you the award so you can know whether or not you will appeal. Even if you won, you can still say that because some people do appeal. Let's say you got everything you wanted and then you realize, oh my God, I put the wrong alleged onset date. It was the year before and now I'm missing out on a year. In theory, you could ask for it and it's program purposes, in my opinion, because you could either be potentially seeing if you should appeal or to prepare for CDR. Why is that not? If you are a beneficiary, I think any request for that is for a program purpose because you're going to be getting a CDR. It's the law. So use the 3288. I do have copies where I have smacked all over it what they can't deny you, even though their little form says they can. And I attach the law that tells them they can't do that. Yeah, I'm a little on the face sometimes. But I think if you win, you want to get it. If you lose, you want to get it. So everybody for the case, get it. Susan says, great question. What happens if I move to another state after my application is in process? Nothing. It will move with you. It will move with you. So if you're on initial or you're going to have a new field office, but if you are in initial or recon, it's going to go to the DDS out there, generally speaking. It's not a problem at all. Do not even worry about it. Enjoy your move, and I hope you move into a great place. I can't wait to move. I can't wait myself. If you are at ALJ level, it's also going to move. It's going to move to your area. Now, none of this makes much of a difference, guys, because people go, oh, but I know I had I wanted the judge out there. Sometimes it's going to go to a judge in Puerto Rico if you're not even in Puerto Rico. I mean, they have a way of, when one area is over full, they're going to give you someone else in a far different location anyway, like a support group that's willing to take on a case to lighten the load and get someone's case done faster. Don't worry about moving. It is all good. Just notify them so that you get your mail. Do your change of mail address to your new place once you move and notify them right away. Hey, Jets fam. Jets fam was approved for SSDI just the other day. Another one of our woohoos. Not my personal one. I can't take credit for it, but one of our awesome viewers that share the good news. Took him 8 months, he or she, 8 months. Thank you so much. Watch video. I learned so much. I'm 55 years old. Work 35 straight years, no waiting game, keep helping people. Yeah, that's the plan. If I'm breathing, I'm doing it, right? Is that what they say? Well, I hope so. If I should be so lucky. I'm definitely grateful of the opportunity. So thanks for the share as always. And don't be a stranger. Come visit us all the time. All weekend work. Yeah, I know. It's like me too, Susan. And I know like you do unpaid work and the planning. You could be planning it in your head while you're at a family barbecue, right? Just because it's what's going on in your head. That's the kind of eat, sleep, and breathe a job. They say we shouldn't do that, but it's really impossible if you have the kind of job that you just throw your entire soul into, right? Kelly says, yay, how long do you think the final non-medical review will take typically? They say 15 to 30. Isn't that what they're still saying, guys? 15 to 30 days? Vicente Garcia, hello there. Says, hello, I was just awarded SSDI and I have a dependent. Do I have to file taxes on the amount my child is getting because of me? Thank you in advance. You're going to want to talk to your tax professional about that. I can speculate. So it sounds like you smartly applied for auxiliary benefits for your child. That's a child that's a minor, guys, a dependent or disabled, if not a minor, disabled under the SS rules. I think I would speculate. This is pure speculation, Vicente. I think it would be a child's tax return. It comes in his name. So speak to your tax professional about it. You're probably going to want to do that anyway if you got back benefits that stem, over multiple years. But yeah, it just seems like if it's in the child's name, it should be taxed to the child. But I have nothing to base that on besides just common sense, which sometimes the law is not common sense. We all know that, right? Long A, Mike Pesci? Not Pesci. Really? Now, what about Joe? Okay, I'll be waiting to hear back from you, Mike. Okay, Sam says approved last week, 4 days before the hearing. I know who it is. You've got a very disguised YouTube handle there, lady. All right, yeah. That was fabulous, wasn't it? And that was one of my midnight briefs. That was great. OTR for Sam. 4 days before our hearing. Kelly says, thanks. Okay. Joe Pesci. Oh, he spells it different already. He's got the I. Joe Pesci with an I is correct the way he pronounced it. Pesci. Pesci. You're Pesci or Pesci? Is there an E at the end? An E sound, Mike? Okay. Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Lauren Blackwell says, hello. I've had to go to the ER 5 times this year due to seizures. My doctor says they are medical resistant. Blood work shows I'm following meds. Is this strong evidence? Are they epileptic seizures, Lauren? Or are they pseudo seizures or non-epileptic events? I think it makes a difference. Epileptic are neurological based. And excuse me if I don't say it in the official medical vernacular. Pseudo seizures, which by the way, just for those of you who are unfamiliar, they're not neurologically caused, is my understanding, generally speaking. And in the cases, I've had several cases with pseudo seizures. We just won one, but if it's a younger person, they're very typical to lose too, unless there's all that other stuff. They're often psychiatrically caused. It can be a PTSD, chronic PTSD reaction, started out of the blue. Sometimes it's, the mind is so incredible and confusing and nobody can understand it. I don't care what they say, right? And sometimes when a person's mind and body is saying, that's too much for me right now. And that the level, the threshold of tolerance for anything stressful or of a particular trigger becomes so low. I mean, they don't have to be in a burning fire building to have the seizure. It can be because someone was rude to them at the grocery store and they get, whatever it is, it can be what most of us would consider to be minor conflict. Everyone else brushes off and doesn't even think twice about it, doesn't even normal stress can become unwithstandable, when someone's kind of had the brain, the psyche damaged in this way from whatever cause, really. It doesn't even matter what the cause is. Often it's, chronic trauma, but those I think are harder, like all psychiatric type of stuff. A pseudoseizure, it's not caused by something physical, blah, blah. But, we all know how much the mind can affect the body. I mean, ulcers, I've got propensity for that kind of problem. My father had them. I was in the hospital last year. Some of you might remember getting my gallbladder taken out of emergency, and lo and behold, I have erosion all over the place. When I went for the third time, not realizing within an hour, I was apparently golden yellow and my eyeballs were yellow. So everything was just going, shut down. And I just had my 1-year anniversary on that. Gallbladder out, and then another surgery, and then another surgery because there was a bunch of stones that were just ripping everything apart. But I had duodenal inflammation and all that. And then I was on that pantoprazole, and I'm not on that now, but I have it. So if I have a flare or something, but my father had it. He had a bleeder. I don't believe mine was. I believe it might have to do with excess stress or something. And we did have a lot of extra stress. And I think I'm pretty good at handling stress, but maybe we internalize it and, it affects other things. Maybe we're building up more acid. I don't even know. But we all know how mental things can cause us insomnia. We can be overthinking things when we go to bed. I've been there. Most people I know have been there. If they're not still there, I have loved ones right now who are there. And I'm you got to learn how to you're going to have to do something with your mind, or else you're going to be on drugs your whole life to try to get to sleep. And my solution has successfully been started out with kind of meditation. It took me years to practice this, just amateurish stuff. And then now it's more on the prayerful side because, I've got my Jesus back on, and now I don't really have a problem. So it's awesome. But I do this every night when I go to bed, every single night. So whatever helps. Oh my goodness. What is that? Is that Sam? Did you just give a donation for $20? $19.99? That's super sweet. You know where that goes, right? Yep. Okay. So the pseudo seizures, going back to it, harder if they're pseudo. If it's epilepsy, neuro, and if they're very infrequent, then sometimes they'll say, no, you can't drive a car, but you can do other jobs. Sit down jobs, possibly. If they're very frequent and there's a listing, you're going to want to look for it. I think it's under epilepsy. You're going to want to document the frequency. It's all particular. If there's been this many in this amount of time, we had I think a video on that at one point, and it's in there someplace. It's been a while, but pseudo is harder, sadly, but true neurological seizure, different. And it does if the blood work shows she's following meds, is that strong evidence? Well, it's proof that you're taking the meds, which they would assume, unless there's something that says she's not taking her meds and she's having seizures, and they can be medical. Jets fam says, when they send me to federal quality review, it took 19 months. No, 19 days. 19 days. I'm thinking that's what you're saying. All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, it's usually not that long. Mike Heishi. Do I still put the E at the end, Mike? Mike says he was on SSDI 30 years ago, came off, worked for 25, then became disabled with my same disability again, and was granted Medicare at 59. Is that because I had 24 months of payments years ago? I don't know. Did they make you? I don't know, because I don't know. I'm not going to really answer that. When you applied this time, did they give you 24 months of benefits as part of your back benefits and or part of your forward, and then you became eligible for Medicare? 25 years. I'd have to look up that rule that may exist. So I apologize. I don't have that on the top of my head. It's not very usual, right? But it's kind of interesting that occurred. Glad you have it all, though. Become disabled for sure. King. I have a Zoom with my neurologist for my uncomfortable epilepsy in a half hour. Oh, we were just talking about epilepsy. I just got denied. Should I talk to my neurologist about it? Sorry for short notice. Oh, no worries, but I hope I got to you in time. I don't know. You did it at 1:47. Probably not. Yeah, I can't really answer that because I don't know your neurologist and I don't know your medical records. I'm sorry, Marla. My Blue Moon says, thanks, Stephanie, for responding my email today about my case, which relates to both RFCs, physical and mental. Okay, yeah. Liz directed me there. I think I know what you're talking about. I think you have an attorney, right? Maybe you're not getting, communication like you would hope for. I apologize for that. That's for a colleague not being responsive that I would like them to be. But I think to the extent we could, we gave you some facts, right? Just some legal realities, not necessarily particularly to your case. You got to kind of see if they apply, because we really can't do much more than that. You understand, I think, right? Vicente says, another question. I was 100% P&T veteran. What is the point, or is it work it for me to keep Part B? Oh, so you have probably VA and you're like, should I, I don't know the ins and outs, and everyone's different. What if you're not happy with the VA and you want to go someplace else? It's kind of a personal choice, I guess. Obviously, it'll cost you, right? I don't know if there's any coverage where VA will pay for Medicare if you take it. Is there? Because VA, I think you're fully covered, right? But what about if you need to go do something and you're not really? I mean, the VA isn't known to have necessarily the best opportunity for the best treatment. Sorry, I don't think you need to put it down, but and I know that the administration it's very important to it. That's why I think maybe in first term they were really pushing for that community permissions where a veteran can go outside and it be covered by their VA coverage, so that they don't have to be stuck with just the limited network of the VA. So it depends if you want choices too. Do you want choice in your medical care, or it's going to be such a personal decision, I think, Vicente? If you have VA benefits, which are way better than SSD generally in terms of cash amount, and if you have SSD also, maybe you can afford both if it's the wise choice. I'm not saying spend your money fecklessly, right? So that will be up to you. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys can see this. Little Rap Guy was banned and their comments were removed. I've never done that before here, but did you guys see what Little Rap Guy was doing? At first I thought it was just like a prelude to a question, and it might have been a political question. And I let a little of that come through. God knows I shoot him out there sometimes, but he was going on, and it was like a big spam thing about whatever he wanted to diatribe about. Some weird, it could have been very meritorious. It's just not the place. Like, come on, we're trying to answer SSA questions. Agree or disagree? Kelly says, don't even know what he's talking about. Me neither, Kelly. I did not know what he was talking about. Susan says, yes, he's a spammer. Mute him. Yeah, I just had first I started to click them all, take away the comment. I'm like, he's just not stopping. I remember Jonathan had somebody. I think he had someone who was spamming anti-Semitic stuff on his live stream. I think I was on there that day. This is like a year ago. Yeah, probably. And it's just like, yeah, I had to look. I'd never done it before, so I had to look under those 3 dots where it said you can boot him. Like, sorry, rude man, you're going. Man or woman. All right. Yeah, Sam says, thanks for the fully favorable decision. You're the best. Yes, we got a fully favorable on OTR. Gosh, it's been a good month. Well, this is probably October. All right. Things are going really well. There's no complaints about the SSA in terms of, from me, but we, how anal we are about how we do things here, about results. They've been as stellar as always. All right. Charlie Tuna says, does my credit affect getting my son a bank account? Is he a minor? Been trying to set him up for a dedicated for back pay, but now they want a bank account card to open a bank account. So you don't have your own bank account because you have bad credit. Is that right, Charlie? This is your child. Speak to the SSA. So you can't open your own bank account. Yeah, that's a problem. His benefits can go on a debit card, right? And then you can just go to the ATM and take out the money. Probably depending on how much, and depending on your bank. Some banks have like a $600 a month withdrawal at an ATM. I know I had one bank that we could do up to 1,000. Then another bank, these are the ones that I actually have accounts with, can only do up to, it was 600, then it became 700. So every bank makes its choice about what it's going to let people take out on their Social Security debit card. So you can do that. That's a Direct Express card probably still, Charlie. All his monies will go in there. You'll take them out to spend on, whatever for his wherewithal, rent or, shelter costs, whatever, his portion of things, food, etc. You could do it that way. That's what people with bad credit do. And, and there's a lot of people with bad credit after they become disabled and not able to work. So don't feel bad about it. It's not a character reflection. It's just the way it is. When you don't have money, you can't pay bills. So I don't know. Let's see. You can go to the SSA website, by the way, Charlie, and they'll give you the information on that. Look up Direct Express Social Security debit card. My mom had a debit card. She still has a debit card. She probably could open a bank account now, but she had bad credit. And it was just easier. Okay. Have you run into SSDI vocational experts during the process calling the applicants to find out? Okay. Someone asked me this recently, and I wonder if this was you. Was it an email? It's actually generally the adjudicator that's calling you and asking you the vocational questions. So they are not per se a vocational expert by credential, but they're just asking for the information that would then be applied by the rules or whatever. So they're not giving vocational testimony or anything like that. So I find that if you're on initial or recon, it is the adjudicator or part of the adjudicator team if there's a team. Like sometimes they have pre-development people before it gets an adjudicator. It is that person. So they might say, refer to it as a vocational expert. I don't think it is, but you need to give the information because it's part of the case. And somehow it was vague on maybe the work history report, or if you didn't have to do a work history report because you only had one job in the relevant time period, it would be that it was unclear based on the information put in the application. Yeah, that's definitely an adjudicating thing at the DDS. So it's not really a vocational expert. This is why the new work history report, by the way, is so good. I'm so glad they did it. It's longer. It takes more work, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't take more work for us because we used to get this information before them anyway when they didn't ask for it because it was going to be asked about later, and I don't want them calling my people. My rule is they never call my people. They don't have my permission. They have my express disallowance to call my people. They call me. And of course, I want to have the information, available. So that's why the beauty of the new work history report. It asks all the details that they're going to want to know about, particularly for skilled people over 50. Steve 56 says, regarding the file to get after approval, what should I ask for? Would my lawyer have it or would I? Yes, as brought up by Beth Prince, your lawyer should have it because they certainly for the first 2 months, they can download it. First 2 months after you prevail, they can download the whole last version of it. Presumably they've downloaded it before. So yeah, they should have it or they should be able to get it if you ask them within 2 months. I get they might not download it after they win if you don't ask for it, and you probably have up to 2 months. So don't wait, just ask for it. If they don't do it, I would not know why they would not do that. Nonsensical to me. It's like, we're in there. If we're doing our job, I'm in there 50 times a day. So I don't know. Ew, gross. I'm gonna put my elbow in some green muck-eating milk. Have to get a little spray out. They say geese are loose as a goose. So are parrots, it turns out. The difference is, though, they don't stink. Like I have dogs. You guys know I have like a zoo here. Dog poop is really stinky. Not so much the birds. Messy, but not stinky. I forget what you're referring to, Jets, but Jets is rubbing it in, saying, I will, but he or she's in Florida beach time right now. Trying to make us all jealous, huh? Susan Martin says, I emailed my functional report to you this morning. Feel free to use the information if it's helpful for a YouTube analysis. You were thinking like maybe a YouTube anonymous type of thing, perhaps? I'm faxing it today since it's due 11/8. Yeah, I'm never going to be able to get to it. But wanted to share in case. Yeah, that would be something that would be like on the roster, Susan, but I'm never going to have, time to do. I have my own clients to work on, and those are always constant. For what it's worth, we do them for prepaid consultations, but it costs, because then we're putting out a few hours of time. So there is that, but otherwise I won't hold you to it. So if you do want one way down the road, just, or just offering it up and don't mind it being constructively critiqued, that's something I could do maybe, but just let me know. Okay. Cause I wouldn't want to do that if you don't want it, given my response that we can't really get it in by the 8th, because it's already the 5th. The rest of my day, I'll be working tonight, but the rest of my day is taking my kid to the doctor as soon as he gets home from school, which will be soon, and then back to work. Shub. Hi, Shub. Shub's another one of those people that have successfully passed the journey. Not with me, but he shares his experiences here, and so we're so happy for him. LC says, is there a form I could see how doctor looks like? Doctor, not doctor, DR. He means CDR looks like. CDR is not a form. It is a process. I do have a playlist about CDRs that might give you more insight. So yes, look under the playlists, LC, for it's either CDR or continuing disability review. Probably the longer version, I think, because I wouldn't expect people to necessarily know the acronym. So we probably put it under something bigger. All righty. Half pint. No. Yes. Oh my gosh. Did you used to watch Little House? Half Pint. One of my favorite shows of all time. When the adult function report asks how long you can walk, stand, etc., what do we say if it really varies depending on the day? I would say on a good day, X amount. On a bad day. Or I would just say I have good days and bad days. 3 out of 7 days a week, are the bad pain days or the bad days. On those days, I can only walk blah, blah, blah. And then you don't even have to talk about the good days, but you've made it clear that you're not talking about every day. You're talking about, but you're focusing on the bad, because those are the days that are going to affect your capacity to work full time, being able to ambulate. So that's how I would probably address that, making sure they know there's good days and bad days, or bad days and worse days. Usually a good day doesn't mean good like you used to have a good day, right? It's like, it's still a reduced day, but you want to talk about those days that are going to interfere with work. And if you can't walk more than 5 minutes 3 times a week, this is how bad it is. Like whether it's low back pain that goes through the roof, those are the days that you want them to know about. That is my take on that. Tonic, clonic. What was that response to, Lord? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, gotcha. Yes, because there's different kinds. Thank you. I had to scroll up. We're talking about epilepsy and such. Seizures, I should say. Yeah, so you've looked at the listing. Just give it a good go. And you know what? If you document, I would do a seizure. You're probably doing this, Lauren. You sound like you're on top of it. I would do a seizure journal and just seizures. If it requires much rest after, because the people I've known that have had them get so exhausted and they literally have to go lie down and take a nap for like 2 hours. If that's you, or maybe it's a half hour, whatever, I would have like S for seizure, and then R for, or B for bed, 2 hours. And if it's witnessed, I would say it and maybe have a little W. And if you ever have any in, say, your doctor's office, imperative that they document that. If not, and most of them just happen, we're at home, right? Because usually we're staying home all the time when we're very impaired. If you have family members that witness it, I know it's family members, so they're not going to hold as much water as an objective person, but they could do an SSA 795 documenting. They should take notes on everyone they witness. And they could do a 795 certified statement later and submit it to the adjudicator or the ALJ. Adjudicator is probably going to ignore it, but the ALJ. But you can still get it in for the adjudicator and document, which days, what happened, your appearance, were you frothing out the mouth, how long did it last? All the details that would be relevant. Did you have to go to bed after? And it would be, again, it's not going to be as strong weighted perhaps as if your doctor witnessed it, but it still is going to hold some sort of water potentially. And those are those crumbs that I always talk about. Half Pint says, do you offer a service to just go over the forms before we send them in for those of us who are applying ourselves? Yeah, it's a prepaid consultation. There's like a 1 hour minimum, and it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but you can do it, and people do it all the time if you want. And we can get you in fast. So we kind of have a dedicated process for that. So definitely, and it could potentially even be on the weekend if you needed it in by, say, Monday. Know also that you can almost always get an extension if you haven't had one yet, if you need another 10 days for your function report. So keep that in mind too if you feel like you've been slow on it or whatever. Maybe that prevents you from needing a consult, or maybe that gives you an opportunity to have a consult that you still want. So be very happy to do that for you. Just email at assistant@joydisability.com. And if you're interested in that, and she'll set you up. There's information. I have a link at the top of the chat box, whatever, here in the beginning for the prepaid consultation. And that's where you can see more information about cost and, all that kind of stuff. My girl donated. It's called a zoo donation, huh? To an awesome lady and attorney. Thank you, Sam. That's really sweet. That is really, really sweet. Mike said no sound. Mike, what are you talking about? Wait, no what? No E sound. So you're just Paish. Did I finally get it right, Mike? Paish. People must screw that up all the time. Do they screw it up all the time like I did? Butcher it? Looks like Ann Miller's in the house. Do you represent people from other states other than where you are located? Yes, all 50. And I travel. Well, like for instance, I'll be working out of Maryland in a couple of weeks, but we don't actually meet the people face to face. That's kind of a thing of the past, because SS is very technological. So we've soared with them to keep it all top of the game. Another poopy. Yeah, so feel free to inquire. I would say the majority of my cases are not in Pennsylvania. And mind you, I'm actually a New Jersey attorney, office in Pennsylvania, doing federal work, and not even doing New Jersey work. So the beauty of the federal work, and this was my goal early on, because I didn't want to be stuck in Jersey. Can you imagine me in Jersey, which is where I grew up? And it was cool to grow up there, but it's very different now. And I don't really want to be stuck in Pennsylvania, although we are probably for the duration, because my husband works at a job here that he couldn't really replace elsewhere. So yeah, I just do federal. The reason why I wanted to do federal, which is unrelated to why I do SSD, but back in the day, I was actually thinking of doing immigration law. I do have an immigrant mother who was not a U.S. citizen, however, and that might have been a little bit of the draw, but the fact that it was federal meant I could move anywhere in the country. Because you got to remember, if you're a New Jersey attorney doing New Jersey state law, you got to be near New Jersey. So it was a beautiful thing. And immigration law stuff was just like, I remember looking at the book I bought and I was like, that's going to be so dry. It's probably not dry. Then someone turned me on to SSD and I never looked back because it was totally up my alley. Half-Pint says, I'm finding that there just isn't enough room to answer these questions to be sure and be accurate and describe the situation well enough for the examiners to see the full picture. That's right. You're going to have to learn how to concise it down. But you're probably not aware of what things that are important to your case and what are not. Sometimes your perception of what's important because it's important to you and how you feel and all that stuff. A lot of times people do things that they don't realize are going to be repetitive in terms of the functional way it's going to meld. It's two different things they're doing, but they don't realize it's going to affect the same particular task that is one of the ones. Yes. So they don't know because they're not, obviously well studied in that. So I get it. It is kind of a, what's the word? A skilled art in the field to get things properly into the requisite area. And yes, they do give you a remarks page, and then I've seen people like type 3, 4, 5 single page pages. And I'm like, I'm not sending that in. So tell me what's your worst stuff in the box. I will be reviewing that stuff and pulling out the salient parts, but we are going to fit this in the box. That's what we're going to do. And it works like a charm. It works like a charm. You just got to kind of know how to do it. And it's probably taken years to perfect it, but it's good. Think about the adjudicator. Do you think they're going to want to read that when they've got, I don't even know how much, I'm just going to throw like 100, 200 cases, 400. I don't even know how many they each have. I'd like to look that up. I wonder if there's information on that. If any adjudicators are listening, let us know. Everybody would probably like to know, how many do you have to juggle at one time? And I bet you there's a limit, which is why there is sometimes a limit to get an adjudicator. You have to wait in the bullpen till one gets some stuff siphoned out. Cases go out, then they can take in some more. They're constantly working, I think. One goes out, they get another one. They don't get a break, right? All right. Hey, Justin Zane. You are Justin Zane. Nice to see you, bud. Oh, you just got out of the CEs. Well, post me later. Let me know how it went. Justin says, 100% of P&T vet here. They suck for records and treatment. Yes, I hate the way VA presents the records. The SSA adjudicators hate the way VA pumps out the records. It is a morass of 1,000 pages for what could be properly stated in 100 pages. And then what we need is probably 1 page. Mephisto is back again. Nice to see you, bud. If the SSA defines a heavy RFC is 100 pounds, actually 50 and above would be heavy, I believe, Mephisto. And medium RFC is lifting 50 up to 50. Between 20 and 50, I say 21 and 50 is medium, I believe, Mephisto. What category would someone that has to lift up to 70 pounds fall into? That would be heavy. And there are a lot of jobs I know. I think it's like postal service, maybe UPS, stuff like that. I think some of those jobs, part of their job description is the ability to lift 70 pounds. And that is a really, really good piece of evidence. Because if you can't do that kind of heavy work, and it doesn't take much injury to not be able to do that heavy work, then they can't do that job. And the SSA now knows that job requires 70 pounds. It says it right in the description. Coming from the horse's mouth. Would I get a hyphenated RFC of medium heavy? It shouldn't be. That should be considered heavy. If the maximum you had to lift was under 50 or under, then you would be medium. And if it's 20 or under, then you'd be light. And if it's 10 and under, sedentary. My girl Beth says, yes, we saw Little Rap Guy and we were all eye rolling and using our inside voices to respond. What is our inside voices? Just like in your head. C56 says, one last question. SSA withheld more for attorney fees than the max they will charge me. You mean more than $9,200? Do I need to do anything or will this correct itself on its own? It should correct it. It's on its own. My back pay will be going back to my LTD, long-term disability, and they're covering attorney's fees too. If you had, so sometimes they just take out the whole 25%. I think it's just to be protective because let's say you had 2 attorneys, like you got rid of one or they got rid of you after doing some work and then you got another one. Neither one of those 2 will be using, unless they waived fee, will be using the fee agreement. They're not allowed to. So that fee agreement that capped what the attorney can get at $9,200 no longer applies. Now it's a fee petition and there's no $9,200 cap. So they could feasibly urge a far greater fee. So that's probably why they at least took the whole 25%. They will work it out though. And if you only had one attorney, yeah, the rest is going to come back to you. That doesn't usually happen. Usually it is straight away done right, and it's not the bigger amount taken out. But if there's something like that, yeah. They also might have withheld in case they thought there was a lien or something that they had to cover. I don't know. I mean, I guess it could vary. And yes, they should be paying the attorney's fees directly. Mike Page, did I say it right, Mike? Says, Stephanie, I had been on Medicare 30 years ago because I had been disabled for more than 2 years, 30 years ago. So maybe they just picked up where I was. Maybe. That almost sounds like deja vu. I just haven't looked at it, Mike. So you might be right there. If I can, it's very unusual, which is why it probably hasn't stumbled across my path anytime recently. If I think about it and get a free moment, I will try to look it up. And if I do, I'll probably post it on the general page for general posts. Got a scratch there, huh? You got fleas? All righty. Vicente says, I hope we're getting close because we're getting close to 3, and I do have to run today because I have my child's doctor appointment. The VA in Nashville overall was not good, but the VA here in Fayetteville, Arkansas is great. And anything, that's good. And anything they can't help me with, they send me out of the VA. Most of my appointments are now outside the VA. Awesome. See, that is where, I think that was what came about several years ago when they really pushed to get that community care part set up. Is that what you're referring to, Vicente? And I think that's only appropriate. I mean, why should a veteran be stuck in the network? I think part of the compensation package should be like, yeah, you get VA, but if you try it and it's not sufficient, you can opt for something else. Same category of medicine, but my eyes are like glue. All right. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad that's still going on because I know it's not perfect. So Half Pint says, for the last 15 years, I've been a self-employed 1099 truck driver recruiter. Ooh, I am turning 55 in February. Is this going to be a problem getting approved? You're not a truck driver, you're a recruiter. That's probably is that a skilled? It's either semi-skilled or skilled. It's not unskilled, obviously. Truck driver, by the way, is not unskilled. However, there's no transferable skills. At least the truck driving skills are not transferable. I remember that being in an SSA narrative someplace, and I kept it in my head for 15 years. Because a lot of truck drivers, and a lot of them do become disabled. A lot of them do all that sitting on the bumpy roads, all that kind of stuff, constantly moving things. It's such a hard job. And then plus some of them were doing a lot of physical, doing a lot of physical, things also. Sometimes the earlier days of truck driving were a lot of physical unloading and loading, all kind of commingled. Then they become on the road and maybe they're not doing any of the lifting. So, you're unskilled, your skilled part, there's going to be organizational skills. There's going to be probably report writing skills, analysis skills. Do you know I did legal recruiting for a brief period? Yeah. Long before I did SSD work, but I was getting out of the firm life because I was not going to work for another law firm again. There was just no way I was going to be willing to do it. And so while passing the time and starting to develop my own idea of a practice I was going to open, which I did during that time, very small, of course, very different from now. I was recruiting and I just trying to remember all those things, writing, all that kind of stuff. So communication skills, heavy, right? Remember we had to really kiss the butt of the law firm hiring manager. It was like very annoying. I swear to God, I don't play well with others like that. So I think you're going to have skills that you're going to want to address. You might want to, I hate to say it, if you don't have an attorney, you might want to get one. I think you said, I forget, you're turning 55. If you don't have an attorney, if you want one and you want us to look at it, send the free evaluation. Click on that link at the top if you want us to look at it. Put your YouTube Half Pint 71 name in there. In any part where you type, tell them that you spoke to me and I told you to specifically have it shot right over to me. And I'll take a look at it and I'll call you one way or the other. All right. It doesn't cost you anything. All right. Thomas, hi guy. Sleep, what's sleep? You see? So what do you think about my meditation? You don't have to throw the Jesus thing into it. It was helping me before I did that. Now it's just it's exponentially better now that I do. But that's just something personal, that's a faith thing. But I know, Thomas, I know you don't sleep well. And I worry about that. I worry about my husband who doesn't sleep well. Same thing. But he's very stubborn too. He won't take any of my advice. Lovely Beth says, as a disabled healthcare professional, just remember that what the VA is today might not be the VA tomorrow, so to speak. Yep. It's better to have more coverage than less related. Okay. Excellent point. That's a side share that Beth is doing to the fellow or fellette who said, should I get Part B? That's my conservative nature, Beth. I would go that way. Better to have the coverage you need, even if you pay a little bit more. It's why I got my mother a gap plan. She has traditional Medicare plus a supplemental gap plan that, pardon me, covers copays and stuff. So it pays. Has it paid for itself? Probably now that she's getting older, and she had a couple issues this past year before she moved to my sister's after like 14 years here. Maybe it has, but she pays $200+ a month on top of her 180 or whatever for that gap plan. And it is peace of mind. And there's something to be said for that. And speaking of sleep and bad sleep, that might let you sleep better and be healthier. Somebody say, well, I don't want to waste the money. Well, is it a waste if you're getting better sleep and less anxiety for the rest of your life over it? If you can afford it. I know most people don't have VA. VA benefits are so nice, and I'm so glad you guys have them, because it is much easier to live as a veteran with VA benefits than a person who's not, and you're disabled or retired. It just is. It's leaps and bounds. And not just because of the VA coverage, but because of this far greater income. It's just really good. And I'm so glad we have it. Our vets definitely deserve it. Vicente says VA care is very different from one location to another. Thank you, Stephanie. I have now subscribed to your channel. Oh, thank you, Vicente. Yeah, and what Beth says, I reiterate exactly what Beth said. Half Paint says, yes, probably to the Little House on the Prairie reference. If any of you haven't watched Little House on the Prairie, it's a show from the 70s, and it's very wholesome, and it's just awesome. I grew up on it, and I never forgot it. And now you can get it on like free TV and stuff like that. I want to say it's like The Waltons, Little House, Partridge Family, Brady Bunch, all that kind of stuff. But it's set in the 1800s. It's set after the Civil War. It's based on a true story written by Laura Ingalls, who became, when she was married, Laura Ingalls Wilder. She died, I think, in the late 50s. She grew up in the late 1800s. And she described multiple books set where she describes life in the big woods and on the prairie and all that. And they made a series out of it, starring Michael Landon, Karen, am I going to say her name like Grassley, Melissa Sue Anderson, Melissa Gilbert. Why am I having a brain fart? Anyway, and then the twins, and I don't recall their names, but it was the best. It was the best. And by the way, there was a Michael Landon, before he died very young in his early 50s of cancer, he then produced, and he was Little Joe on Bonanza. If any of you guys are old enough for that, that's before my time, but I saw reruns maybe when I was little, and it was called Highway to Heaven. Another very mushy type of, I suppose, show. They don't have a lot of these now, but really, really good. That's a little bit on the Jesus side, but he was. I thought he was great. He was Little Joe on Bonanza. I said that right. Okay. Bliss be with you. Is there anything wrong with sending function report, form, work history report, pain management, pain medication report, and third-party reports with my initial application? Thanks so much. Unless you say something that's probably potentially going to put a fork in it because you didn't know the meaning of what you said and how it actually showed that you're able to do something that you didn't realize under their rules. I don't know, generally sending them early, I don't know that would hurt. They might still send you the request because they're kind of automated, and then you just have to send it again. So sending things, you mean are you doing the online application where you can attach things? You can do it. I don't know that it's gonna help necessarily, but you can send anything you want, really. Just keep it clean. Initial application, and they'd have to shoot it up to the DDS person themselves and identify it as what it is. So I think you can. I just don't know if it's gonna. You're probably thinking it's gonna speed things up, right? Well, then they don't have to request it. All that. That's all true. You could give it a shot. I don't know that it would hurt anything. I'm sure you did them right. My doctor said 8 minutes of walking is considered 4 city blocks. Okay, I'm not a city girl, but I think I always heard that city blocks. Granted, I used to go in New York City back in the day, back in the early 20s, going to like South Street Steeport for happy hour because we worked in Newark. I went to school in Newark. And then as a child, I think I went to Madison Square Garden for various things, with youth group trips or whatever. So I think I saw the Rockettes once with my friend's family in high school. But so I understand that they're considered longer blocks than we might see in a development or something, right? Out in the burbs. I will say this, if 20 minutes is a 20-minute mile, it's probably a standard walk, not too brisk. Takes 20 minutes. 8 minutes would be less than half of that. 4 city blocks, is that a half mile, third of a mile? I don't know. But I always heard that they were long blocks. I think your doctor's probably potentially correct there, right? Just got to go measure it. By the way, Ann Miller, your name reminds me of something that would be on Broadway. Isn't there like something Miller? I'm so not artsy fartsy, can you tell? Great name though. Vicente says, yes, writing down and keeping track of episodes, migraines, PTSD episodes, how it affected me, and how long together with doctor notes helped my case big time. Very good. Saida, am I saying that? Sayeda, am I saying that right? Says, my SSA portal just got updated yesterday after I had my phone hearing about 3 weeks ago. And it says that the ALJ completed reviewing my appeal and is now at the local field office for a final review. You should get that in the mail. If you have an attorney, that attorney can see it on your e-file. I would want to know what that is, but your mailbox should have it very soon, because if they sent it to them, you should also have a copy, right? And obviously the way they send it to the field office is electronic. So it got there same day. And for you, it's going by mail. So, and mail being incredibly slow and unreliable and going to the wrong people, you might not have it. But if you have an attorney or a non-attorney rep who has e-file access, I suggest you give them a buzz and say, hey, can you get me my report for me, my decision? And then you'll know for sure what the answer is. It almost sounds like, I don't know, do they send that out when you don't win? Ugh. If they do, they got to stop that messaging. It's just rude. Half Pint says, I haven't submitted my application yet. My plan is to have all the forms completed to submit with my application, along with the ROC form from my doctor. And oh my God. Does your doctor know the rules of what applies to you? Does he know? Is he going to stick a fork in it? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I just think I have video on why I'm like, don't just have your doctor fill out some wacky, generic SSA RFC form. 9 out of 10 times they muck it up and they mean well, but they just do and get a denial, but maybe not. So, but I get it. You want it to move along fast and all that. So I don't think it's gonna, aside from whether your content is screwed up or not, I don't think doing it is going to be a problem. They might ask for it again because they never got it up to them. You might have to resend it. And when you say you're sending all of your medical records, I hope that doesn't mean that they're not going to order them too. Are you going to have everything exactly the official set? You're not sending portal records, right? As your official and saying they don't have, because some of them take it as, oh, we don't have to order them now. She already got them for us. So if they're not complete, you're not going to necessarily want to do that, because now you're giving an adjudicator the idea potentially that that's done. Now I don't have to do that part of my job. Just be careful. Oops. Okay. Charlie Tuna says, and I really have to go soon, guys. Thank you for the help. It did say I could use my son's dedicated money for lawyers' fees related to him. Didn't the attorney get paid directly through the SSA? Didn't they do automatic withholding? Or she doesn't practice it a lot and doesn't get that privilege? Maybe, because that is something you have to sign up for. Oops. Sometimes newbies or people that aren't, been doing it long, haven't done it yet. Would your monthly subscription fall into this category? Great comprehensive. I couldn't tell you. That I couldn't tell you. Sorry. Half Pint says, I'm not seeing the links you mentioned should be listed at the top of the chat. All right. So do this, Half Pint. Go to joydisability.com, and in the upper left, there's a little link for free eval, and that's the one you want to click. For anybody who wants the prepaid consultation information, it's the link on the right. And it's the only 2 links really up there. So can't really miss it. I think it's on every page, maybe. I think. Mephisto says, if you and your husband do end up moving, what state? We're going to still be in Pennsylvania. My husband works for Pennsylvania. Only the last 6 years, but it's a good job. It's got good benefits, we're appreciating those things. Sometimes it's not how much you make, but it's how much you keep in your wallet. Right? So the benefits are really important. I too would like to move. Yeah, so we'll be in we're there half the time anyway. It's the Harrisburg area because he works in Harrisburg. So, within an hour of Harrisburg, preferably. Where we stay now is within a half hour. So it's, I love it because we like to be rural. We like to be out of the way. Brandy says, community care for VA. Yep. Jessica Lovey says, I have 2 appointments. SSDI made me. First is internist, next is psychological. Yeah, so that's your physical CE and your mental CE. We do have 2 videos if you want to look at them. Internist is like your family. It's like a regular general practitioner. That's the way I look at internist anyway. It's probably not the official definition. Those transferable skills, says Half Pint, have all been affected due to my illness. Yeah, that's going to be really important. A lot of those brainiac skills, Half Pint, can be detracted from mental conditions such as anxiety, defeating concentration, and all that kind of stuff. We have lots of video mentions on that, I think. But then you have to be training for that. You can't just claim it. Brandy says, it's like EMS and FF. It's like EMS, FF. To remote sedentary roles, still denied to say perform something less strenuous. I'm not really sure what I'm reading. EMS, SFF. Sorry, I'm not getting that one. And guys, I am going to have to, I think we're coming to the end. I want to just see if I can pop these out real fast. And Miller says 10 and under is sedentary. Yes. And sedentary is if you can't walk, like you are sitting 6 out of 8 hours. So you have to be able to sit 6 out of 8 hours. If I'm not mistaken, I was reading mine. They said light was 10. No, light is 10 to 11 to 20. Yeah, just double check that. Good afternoon. Should my VA 100% PNT letter be uploaded to the SSA portal, or should my rep send? I heard SSA expedites. Yes. Your rep can also tell them in their cover letter too. And if you have the 100% PAT letter, I'd get it to Europe. I mean, if it was gotten to me, I'd be shooting it up myself. I don't want to rely on, that's really important stuff. So I don't want to rely on the SSA necessarily getting it. What if they can't get into the right VA section? Because sometimes it doesn't get included, I think, in some parts of the downloads that they get. I'm not sure. That's always changing. Beth says, insurance better to have and not need than to need and not have. Absolutely. And the price of not worrying is really valuable. Yep. Vincente says, thank you, Beth. Jesus Gutierrez. Nice to see you again, my friend. I had my CE physical exam this week. Thank you for everything. Taking the meds helped me remember what I take and side effects. Now playing the waiting game. Yeah. Good luck with you. Fingers crossed, pal. Silk says, Charles, Caroline, Laura, Mary, and Carrie Ingalls are respectively portrayed by Melissa Gilbert. I knew I got it. Well, you know, it's funny because Melissa Gilbert has a sister who was on Roseanne. I think they're both adopted. Lindsay and Sydney Greenbush, is it? Wow, Silk, you're on top of it. Very good. I was a close second, though. It's a great show. It's great. It's like American history, isn't it? Halfpint says, I have a colleague who said she went to SSA office and gave them everything all at once, and she was approved quickly. That's great. And a lot of times the field office person never gets it up to the DDS. I'm just saying that's why we never do it that way. We wait till it gets to the adjudicator at the very least when you get the adjudicator letter. But that doesn't mean sometimes there's not a good clerk down there that's doing the job and scanning it up the way they're supposed to. I know I'm speaking fast, guys, because I have to go out of here and I don't like to leave anybody hanging. Bliss says, I remember Little House on the Prairie. Yeah. After growing up in Oregon, I live in Iowa now, and the prairie is the natural default before modern farming. Yeah. Hey, Sus, did you have 2 appointments? Okay, Bliss says, all right, it's going to keep going. Brandy's firefighting. Yeah. Very. I don't know what the question was, but that's very physical stuff and very specified too. And the more physical, the easier it is to prove you can't do it. I still denied, although they state could do something less strenuous roles. Well, is it true? If you want an eval, we can always take a look. It'll be, as you know, it depends on whether we have openings in your category. But all right, guys. Yes. All right. Last question. Thank you guys so much. It's been great as always being here on a Wednesday with you, my favorite day of the week because of all you guys. And 12:00 noon, our daily videos come out. And if there's something that you think is suitable, let me know. And I will try to put it on my list of videos to get to. Anyway, I hope to see you guys next week, of course. And if you need an eval or you need a prepaid consult, you know where to find it. joydisability.com, left and right links. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Be safe and God bless.